Hello and welcome to TradeStation. This is the TradeStation Masterclass. This is the Platform Essential series, where we highlight certain functionality or certain technology of the TradeStation platform. We dive deeper into it so that you can understand all the ins and outs of how to do things on TradeStation. Today is using the TradeStation backup and restore. So before we get started on that topic, just the usual introductions. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Client Training and Education Director for TradeStation Securities, and it's always a pleasure to talk about TradeStation. Let's go through some of the disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. It is not a recommendation of TradeStation, and that active trading is not suitable for everyone. Also, past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. And for additional information on these disclosures, please visit the link right there on the PowerPoint slide, www.tradestation.com/important-information. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch over to my TradeStation platform. I have a few things already opened here. These are things that we were working on our prior class. But let me just open up a new workspace so there's no distractions. So we all know how frustrating it is to lose work that you've spent so much time on, especially on a computer. There may be a hardware failure, your hard drive crashes, you lose all the workspaces, everything that you spent some time on, it's gone. So it's useful to always have a backup. And that's the main idea here in this class is for you to remember that you should back up your work, especially if you spent considerable time on it. If you don't mind recreating your workspaces from scratch, then that's okay. Maybe you don't need to worry about backup. But if you spend time organizing your chart analysis windows, organizing your symbol lists, creating custom scans, like the one we did in our previous class, or writing easy language and creating your custom indicators and strategies, creating custom orders, creating custom symbol lists, all of that, interesting stuff, then you must learn about backing up your work. Okay, there are some things or some files that are not easily found. For example, if you create an indicator and then you go into the TradeStation directory trying to find that single file with that name, you won't find it because that's TradeStation has certain ways of creating files or encrypting files to make them as efficient as possible. And they are not going to be listed as standalone files that you can just copy and save somewhere else. Like workspaces. Workspaces do have a specific file that you can copy and paste somewhere else. But custom orders, custom symbol lists, internet research links, whatever you customize in TradeStation, most of the things that you customize in TradeStation are not going to be available as a workspace file. So let's go ahead and take a look at this utility file. And it's right there, backup restore TradeStation. I'm going to click on backup TradeStation, and then we're going to take a look at restore TradeStation. Well, let's take a look at some of the features and how you can make this experience better. Backup TradeStation. All right. When this window opens up, it'll give you a list of everything that can be customized inside of TradeStation. And sometimes it is impressive, to look at all the different things that you can create inside of TradeStation. Some things that you probably didn't know even existed, some things that you probably are not ever going to use. And if you do use them, maybe it's just a realization that, oh, I can back up my stuff from here. So yeah, this is a list of things that you are able to back up. So let's go from the very top. We have third-party data prefixes. Some of these items you're probably wondering what they are, what is it, because you probably haven't used them. So let me give you a brief description of what they are and see if it's something you would want to back up. A lot of and just as a parenthesis here, a lot of the things here that you find as things that you can back up don't really add up to the size of the backup. There are some things that you should be concerned about, sizing, because they do occupy a lot of disk space. But for the most part, some things here don't really affect the size of your file. Like the top item here, third-party data prefixes. If you ever use custom third-party data, then this is irrelevant to the size of the file, but you can save your third-party data prefixes. Now, if you only stick to the data that is provided by TradeStation, this is not something you should be concerned about. This is only if you're bringing in third-party data into TradeStation. There is some data that TradeStation doesn't provide, and you can get it elsewhere and chart it in TradeStation if it's in the right format and if you import that third-party data. Okay. The second item here, backup configurations, refers to what's available here at the very top. Backup configurations, if you go to the drop-down, I'm not sure if I made any changes here, but in my drop-down, I have a daily, a monthly, and a weekly. A backup configuration is just a way for you to create different types of backups. There may be an intensive backup that you do every quarter. Maybe you can call it quarterly if you want to, and it backs up everything inside of your TradeStation. But then you do maybe a daily backup that is not so intensive, that it doesn't include everything. It just includes, maybe symbol lists, things that you may have worked on, in a week or two. So that's the difference. That's why we have that feature at the top, the backup configuration, because you can create different types of configuration, and each configuration can have its own items to back up. Okay. Basket ordered trade list. If you don't use the tool, that's okay. It's a tool that allows you to send orders as a basket for execution. Chart study groups. If you don't create groups of studies, then it's something you shouldn't be worried about. But study groups is kind of fun to create and switch back and forth. Custom session templates. This refers to charting. If you are creating custom sessions, this is what's going to back them up. Custom symbol lists. I use them all the time inside of my TradeStation. This only applies to the one you create, though. Okay, if you create custom symbol lists, make sure you check this so they're saved. Data cache is an item that does utilize space on the hard drive, and having it checked or unchecked is going to significantly affect the size of your backup file. Should you back up data? The answer to that is it depends. It depends on the type of data that you're accessing in TradeStation. And let me just be a little bit more specific. If you pull up tick charts on TradeStation, that's fine, because we have tick data on the TradeStation servers. But do you know how much historical data we have on a tick time frame? We only hold 6 months of historical data on a tick by tick level, which I think still massive amount of data. Going back 6 months, for example, on the S&P SPY on spiders, it's a massive amount of data if you were to load 6 months of data, and that is all available on the TradeStation server. But as you continue to load spider on a tick interval, and if you do it on a daily basis, TradeStation will start accumulating that data on your hard drive. So maybe in a month or two, rather than just having the 6 months that are available on the server, you're going to have 8 months and 9 months. And if you do that, over and over, you don't have to access the data on a daily. As long as you do it within, the 6 month time frame, TradeStation will fill in the gaps. If you load up, you could be loading years and years of tick data if that's the type of chart that you use. Now, the problem is, are you using that tick time frame that back further? Because one thing is TradeStation having this automatic download and saving of your tick data, but if you're not using those years and years of tick data, then what's the point of backing it up? data. In this case, it's going to take up space on your hard drive, and you may not need all that historical data because you only look at, maybe a month or two. Does that make sense? But if you really rely on using the tick data because you're using, tick by tick historical back test on strategies, and you want to keep it there for yourselves, then it's something that you have to be aware to back up, because if you don't, then you only have the 6 months that TradeStation provides you. So something to think about, okay? Marilyn is asking if you have purchased a package from the App Store, for example, Bollinger Bands, are they considered third party? No, they're not. If you got something from the trading App Store, this is automatically backed up and connected to your TradeStation account. So you don't really have to back it up, because the server or the network, the TradeStation network that you're connecting to, knows that you have a subscription to that product, and it'll automatically put it on your TradeStation. So no need to back up anything you bring in from the trading App Store. The third party that we mentioned here is just if you have third party data, specific data that you put on a chart. So like, for example, there's some economic data that TradeStation may not provide, and you can get this data charted in TradeStation. Let's take a look at other items here. Let's see, desktops, good, we know what they are. Development environment, what's this right here? Configurations, projects, and toolbox. This only applies if you are a hardcore easy language programmer and you've created, development environment, configurations, projects, and toolbox. If you haven't, no reason to be concerned about checking these three. Exported easy language. Now this is cool because when you export your easy language, it goes into a specific default folder. There's a plus here on the left-hand side that allows me to look at what that directory is. If you are exporting easy language, it'll go to the export folder inside of TradeStation, which is inside of your documents folder. And that's exactly what the path says here. But if you're exporting somewhere else, like if you're exporting to your desktop, then you have to specify that additional directory here and say, let me click on this button. Let me select my desktop and click OK. So that if you're doing the backup utility knows that it has to go inside your desktop and see if it finds any other ELD files. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you're using default directories for everything, then TradeStation knows where those files are. But always be aware or concerned about additional directories if you're saving stuff other than to the default directories. Internet links, we have a class that we teach you how to create those. If you create internet links, you have the ability to save them here. Keyboard layouts, that refers to hotkeys that are programmed into TradeStation. Macros, same thing applies to macros. You can have command line macros and order entry macros. If the name doesn't ring a bell, it's probably because you haven't used it. But if you do know that you create macros and you have hotkeys and stuff like that, then make sure that these are checked when you're creating a backup. OptionStation Pro, I'm not sure what that refers to. Now, this is this is something that I would have to research and find out what it is. OptionStation Pro, what is it that it would back up? Maybe it backs up settings in OptionStation Pro. Yeah, okay, Rich is saying here that's just backing up settings. So whatever settings you specify in OptionStation Pro, it'll put into this archive file so that it continues to open up the same way that you had it. Portfolio Maestro, if you have any data there that you've created, it'll back it up. Preferences, defaults, and toolbars. I guess the name pretty much explains what they are. Radar screen study groups, which are different than the charting study groups. Keep that in mind. We have scans, staged orders, strategy optimization, and performance reports that you have saved. Take a look at the directories here. Those are going to go inside a folder called reports inside of TradeStation, inside of your documents folder. But if you're saving them to a different directory, make sure you specify that here. Studies and strategies. Now this is important, studies and strategies. not for things that are supplied with TradeStation, because remember, anything that is supplied with TradeStation comes in with a fresh installation. So if you don't have to be concerned about losing your Bollinger Bands because they'll come back to you the way that it was. You only have to be concerned about Bollinger Bands if you've made modifications to it. If you made it your own, if you modified the code, then yes, make sure that you go here to studies and strategies and make sure that that's checked, because this is going to back up, all your studies and strategies that you've created in TradeStation. Ticker settings, ticker templates. I believe that's for the ticker bar. Walk forward optimizer, and then workspaces. Workspaces at the very end. Again, we have the plus here to the left. Be aware of that, because if you're saving workspaces on different directories on your computer, you have to tell the backup utility where those workspaces are. Okay, we have very quick buttons here to clear all or to select all. Does it matter if you're selecting all and creating the archive? It doesn't really matter. It'll still create a backup, and it'll go through all the different items here. And if it doesn't find anything custom, it'll just skip it. It'll be very quick, except for data cache. So if you do select all, I would just come here and remove data cache, because data cache is the one that takes the longest to back up. So if you don't really need to back up data, then don't, okay? Because when you open up TradeStation next time, it'll do the download. And nowadays computers are really fast. The internet is pretty fast. There shouldn't be a concern about, oh, it's going to use my bandwidth and so forth. Just download the data fresh, and no need to save data cache unless you're using tick data, as we explained earlier. Okay, over here on the right, it's going to give you a preview of what the name of the archive is going to be. It takes on the name of the configuration. This is a weekly configuration. I can set it, maybe select daily and do the same thing. So if you want to schedule a daily backup, just select the one that is, named appropriately, so that it makes sense to you. I can for sure select one that says monthly and schedule it to run on a daily basis, but then it would be okay. It would work. It would run daily, but you called it monthly, so it's kind of confusing, right? So if you're going to be doing a daily backup, make sure you select the daily configuration. And over here, it tells you where that archive file is going to be saved to. It's going to save into the documents folder. And I know a few years back, TradeStation made this decision that all the custom files and things that were your workspaces were going to be saved inside documents, so that if you do uninstall TradeStation, it doesn't remove your work. Everything remains inside of your documents folder. Here, continue keeping last 5. Sometimes it is recommended that you keep multiple archives, because archives also, or archive files also, have a possibility of getting corrupted. So if one archive gets corrupted, it's really nice for you to have maybe another version that you can default to in case you cannot restore one. So you keep a specific number of archives. I've set mine to 5. Yeah, replace existing archive just keeps one, and it keeps on replacing it as it creates one. You can, these files don't take up a lot of space. Let me, here's the place where you can schedule an automatic backup, and you can specify the time, you can specify the frequency. If you want to do it on a weekly basis, select the day. On a monthly basis, you can select the day that you want this, the day of the month that you want this backup to run, or the first Monday or day of the week of the month. So there it is. I think the functionality is pretty straightforward. Now let me run this backup, and you're going to see how quickly it runs. Let's see. Because you can schedule the backup and then close, and it's already scheduled. But if you want to do it now, you can. Let me go here to backup TradeStation. Let's go to my daily, which let me turn off the schedule. I'm going to start the backup. you do get a warning because if you're doing a backup, you just have to be aware that your trade station is going to disconnect from the server. So this is kind of that warning, telling you, hey, watch out. If you're watching, some positions, some symbols, real-time data, this will stop you from doing that because it'll disconnect you. And that's a fair warning. If I continue, it disconnects my trade station, and you're going to see how quickly it goes through all the different items that I have in my backup. Of course, studies and strategies is something that takes a little bit longer because it has to go through everything and copy it into my archive. It does tell you the number of different archives, file archives that it finds. You can see how big the library is. Let's see how long it takes. We're up to 33 seconds. That's pretty good. Now I didn't select data cache, so it's not listed here. But once it finishes studies and strategies, it should be pretty straightforward. It should be very quick. So that's the reason why it only warns you, hey, hold on, it's going to disconnect your trade station. You don't want to do this in the middle of a trade, Scan data. Scans, if it's just the configuration file, like the filters and so forth, the setup of the scan, no, that doesn't take up space. What takes up space is the data that is downloaded from the scan. And the data is only backed up if you have data cache selected. So two separate things. One is the scans that just, has the settings and the configuration. That is automatically saved, doesn't take up space. And the data would be another item with data cache. The data is not saved into the scan. Oh, this is pretty big. I thought it was going to be a little bit quicker, but I suppose that my studies and strategies library is pretty extensive. Now, I don't think that it's as big as 18,000 files, but it went past that. Notice how quickly it goes through all the other items. Here we have the scans. So all the other stuff happened within fractions of a second. The only one that took a while was studies and strategies. Let's see, is this going to generate an error? Walk forward optimizer, I guess I have some data in there. So you can see, the items that are taking longer. I suppose that I ran a few walk forward optimizer tests and it's trying to load and save that data. So it's taking a little bit longer than what I thought it would. But let's see. Marilyn is saying I have a backup service in the cloud that is automatic. Do I still need to create an archive file or will my service do it automatically? That's the thing, Marilyn. I'm not sure how your service is handling the backup of TradeStation because especially when it comes to, I'll give you an example, like easy language. TradeStation, when you create an easy language document, is going to encrypt that code into some files that we call the work area. There are like 10 work area files that run easy language for you. And whatever file you create is going to be encrypted inside of those files. However, those files cannot be used to retrieve your code. So if your backup service is saving the work area, it could work, if it backs up the whole TradeStation environment and is able to restore it the same way that it was when it created the backup, and you can retrieve your files from the work area. However, let's suppose that in the backup process, there is a broken something that doesn't allow you to run TradeStation and doesn't allow you to access the files. So you would not be able to go to the work area files and retrieve your code anymore. So my suggestion would be to have this as a backup to your backup. It doesn't hurt, it runs automatically if you set it to run automatically, and it's going to save that to your computer. Now, one thing that I do recommend if anybody's thinking about using the backup utility is to make sure that the archive file is safe, in the sense that if you keep it inside of your documents folder and you have a hard drive crash or failure, and you are not able to recover your files, then you would lose your archive files as well. So once it creates the file, you know where the file is, because it's telling you the directory of where it's being saved. But also take that file and put it, in a cloud service. Put it, if you have Google Drive, if you have iCloud, whatever it is that you use as a cloud service, put the file up there so that it's safe. So in case your computer dies, it gets stolen, it crashes, whatever happens to your computer, you always have something in the cloud where to retrieve your file. One thing that I used to do before, cloud services were a thing, I would email it to myself. So take the archive file, attach it to an email, and email it to yourself. My backup here is kind of stuck. So I guess next time that I'm running the backup, here's already 4 minutes into, backing up the walk forward optimizer. I guess it's trying to push through these files, but this is very telling. This would tell me, hey, next time that you do a backup, skip the walk forward optimizer. I don't think, at least, there's nothing there that I would miss. I can't recall anything that I've been using recently that I would mind losing. So I would just uncheck it. But it should not take, the walk forward optimizer should not take that long if you haven't made any changes, or if you haven't made any walk forward optimizer tests. The nice thing about this is that once it finishes, it automatically connects you to TradeStation. So we're back on. The backup utility gives you, it says backup completed successfully. If I view the log file, this is just a text file letting you know every single item that was backed up and what the results were. Okay. Here is giving me, oh, that's interesting. So here is giving me from the backup. These are the ones that it saved. These are the backup configurations. These are my trade lists. These are my study groups here. See the study groups? It says like the Keltner channel and momentum. Grupo de Estudios was something clearly created for a Spanish presentation that I was doing. Here we have, the custom symbol lists. I have, not the custom symbol list. This is CST. This is a custom session time. So this is my crypto session. This is my, US stock with pre and post market. It saves everything. These are my custom symbol lists. Remember that we did a futures presentation. It backs it up. It creates or backs up all these custom symbol lists. I believe all these custom symbol lists comes from the scanner, if you have that automatically turned on. But now here's all my ELDs and internet. So you can look at the log and look at all the different files that it was able to back up, and you can see that what it completed. So let's go ahead and take a look at the size of this file. I'm going to open up my Windows Explorer. Let me just make some changes here. So navigation pane, let's turn that off. I'm going to go here into my documents folder and inside of TradeStation. So, all right. So here we are. So this is my Windows Explorer. We are inside my documents inside of TradeStation 10. And it's not going to be here. So it's going to go, I'm going to go back one. I'm going to go into my documents. It's going to be right here in TradeStation Archives. So there's two different folders. So the one that was most recent is this one at the very top, May 13th. And you can see that the file size, if it's 991,000 KB, this is almost 1 gig. Right? I feel like mine is pretty big. And I think the problem here was those walk forward optimizer files. Generally, the file should not be very big. It should be about 200 or 300 megabytes, but even less than that. So be selective as to what is it that you're backing up. And again, stay away from backing up data cache if you don't need it, because it's going to dramatically increase the size of those archives. Follow-up question from Marilyn: if I open up TradeStation on different computers, do I need to create the archive file on both computers? Only if you're making changes to those computers independently. I know that a lot of users, what they do is that if they're working on their TradeStation at home and they've made some significant changes, what they do is that they create a backup of their TradeStation, and then they take the file over to their work computer, maybe an office computer, and then they restore. And that way they can keep those files in sync. And if they make changes on the one at their office, then they create the backup again, bring it into the home computer and restore it again. That's something that you can do, on a daily basis if that's, if you want to keep, your environments in sync. I know that a lot of users also save their workspaces to a cloud. So like OneDrive or Google Drive or other drive services, so that the workspaces the thing is that if you save the workspace and you're also creating custom code like easy language, the workspace doesn't really save the code. So let's say, for example, you're working on your home computer and you're writing up a custom indicator in easy language that only exists on this computer, will not be in your work computer, office computer, or second computer. Even if you save or move the workspace, because the workspace does not save the analysis technique. So something to think about. But if I'm ready to restore the file, I just go to File, Backup Restore, Restore TradeStation Archive, browse to find the file. It goes into my TradeStation Archives folder immediately. I'm not going to store that 1 gig file because it's going to take forever, but this is the way that you would just select it, open it, and then you can start the restore. Okay, this one right here only has custom symbol list, exported easy language scan, studies and strategies. Okay, I'm going to close. I'm not going to do that one. So that's the idea. That's the purpose of this class, for you to know that TradeStation has a backup utility that creates very nice archives, just one single file. It's just an archive file that holds all your custom work, and then you can move that file with you on a portable hard drive, on a cloud service, email it to yourself, but you have a way to recover your TradeStation if something were to happen to it. All right. Any questions about this? Anybody wants to clarify something or ask anything about the functionality? All right, so that's the information for today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I told you guys that this was going to be an easy class, and it is, but it's always good to know, what is available for you to back up your work, which is something very important, especially if you're, getting into the groove of creating your custom work. So thank you so much for being here. I wish everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I'll see everyone next Monday at 12:30 for our next masterclass session. Okay, great having you. Have a wonderful day.